What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to Shooting the Shit Uncensored. You know who this is. It is the truth, the dad bod god, the ball, the beard, and the fucking beautiful Piers Austin. And tonight, man, we got a fun one for you guys tonight. We got the one and only Izzy Shaw in the building. I'm excited to have Izzy on the show. We actually got to work at AWE show. I think it was like a couple of months back where I got to meet Izzy. Amazing human being. Great conversation then, and I'm expecting it to be a great conversation tonight. Hell, we got lost in conversation. We're like, oh shit, we better go live. So you guys know you're in for a fucking treat. But before we get into it, I need to take a quick second, a quick pause for that cold, baby, to thank our amazing sponsor, and that is healthvape.com. Now listen, if you or someone you know is one of those filthy fucking smokers, right? Or one of those cloud chucking vapor people, right? You need to go and check out healthvape.com. All of their products, no nicotine, no addictive or harmful chemicals. They help restore your energy while giving you the vital boost you need to get through your day. Alan Funk tells me it's like vaping a freaking Red Bull. His words exactly. So go and check out healthvape.com, use that promo code MWAPOD, and start living a healthier life today. Also, wherever you're tuning in, wherever you're joining us, I appreciate you for tuning in. If you're tuning in on YouTube, please make sure to like, share, subscribe, hit the bell to stay notified, all that good shit. Tap that little red button, baby, and tap in, because you know I'm bringing you some of the best interviews and conversations with people involved in the world of professional wrestling, mixed martial arts, boxing, music, rap, entertainment, pop culture. You know I bring it all day long, and we bring you free episodes every single week, every Tuesday and Thursday for free. So please make sure to like, share, subscribe. Also, you can find us on all podcast platforms. So go over there, give us a five-star review, please, ladies and gentlemen. It helps with our analytics, and it helps us bring more of these amazing conversations to more amazing people like you. So guys, please get to clicking, get to tapping, and let's start sharing this shit out. But, I'm getting all worked up and shit. I better calm down. But without further ado, let's get into my conversation with the Lady Thrower Izzy fucking Shaw. And we're live.
Hello.
Tuesday night. Izzy, welcome to the show. Great to have you on.
Thank you for having me. Hello.
I'm excited to have you on, Izzy. I first got to meet you in January at an AWE show. And
yes.
I think you wrestled Nikki Petite that
yes.
afternoon. And it was literally you flew in, wrestled the match, and flew out. And I'm like, that is a straight up gangster move right there.
I was dead. And then I was dead. I think I had to work the day after as well. So that was fun. That was a good time. Yes. I did have to work the day after.
That's the wrestling dream though, right?
Oh, God. Any customer. Oh, I'm so glad I did have a bad customer that day. I was not going to be able to handle it.
Oh man, how did you find because you train at Riot City, right?
Yep.
Right, cool. So was like this your first time coming to Sydney for a show, or have you been to Sydney a few times?
Oh, I've been to Sydney quite a few times. Worked FWA. I know it's not exactly Sydney, but I wrestled for Hunter Valley.
Okay, cool.
years back.
That's good now.
PWA was my first interstate match I ever had for the last PWWA show.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I've wrestled Sydney quite a few times. Not as much as Melbourne, but yeah, I've wrestled there a couple of times.
Yeah, right.
But
There you
usually it's FWA.
How have you like found, because like back in the PWWA days, like that's a while back. So like when did you first make your like entrance into the business?
So I started training in 2011. 2011 is when I first started training. My first wrestling match was 2013.
Oh wow, so 2 years in training.
Yeah.
Wow. Like
And
how is that? Like 2 years in training? Because I feel like, and tell me what you think on this, because I feel like a lot of people and a lot of like younger people, when they come into something, they want instant satisfaction. The fact of having to train for 2 years, like how did you find that process of going through it for 2 years without having a match?
it was difficult for me. I was 15. I knew people that had like trained for 6 months and then were on shows.
Yeah.
It's more the fact it was really hard, but the older I am, the more I realize, and I did kind of understand it back then, but I wasn't athletically gifted.
Mm,
Things come to people at different times.
absolutely.
And so it was hard, especially being a 15-year-old girl, especially when I debuted with Demi Bennett. We basically debuted like a month apart, and she was there for 6 months before she debuted. So that was another thing that like added to it, going, oh my God, she's amazing. But why did it take me 2 years and her 6 months? But
Mm.
also Demi Bennett, Rhea Ripley, I was there for her first training. The woman took to wrestling like a duck takes to water, and you can
Really?
see it. She
Yeah.
is amazing, and you could tell she was amazing from her first training. But yeah, it's hard, especially being a young girl sitting there, like a young person sitting there going, why is it taking me 2 years? Why aren't I good enough? But
But I feel
some
as well like
people,
being at 15 years of age, you're going through like that as well, but then also having the mindset of a 15-year-old girl and going
yes.
through all the things that 15-year-old girls go through at that stage in life and stuff like that. So that must have been like the added stress of it as well, or the added
Oh,
angst to it.
oh, I know like 15-year-olds now that are training at RCW. I know people that started just the same age as me, and it's like wonderful and awesome. And I think it's a good thing to start that early, like getting good enough that when you're in your 20s and stuff. But for me personally, I kind of wish for myself I started later because I wasn't prepared for wrestling. I didn't fully mature. I don't think I fully matured enough to be in the wrestling world until I was like 22. My mindset was very immature. My It really made me self-doubt myself. My thinking was out of whack. I just don't think I should have been, myself personally, should have started that early. And
Yeah.
I don't say that for anyone else, but knowing myself, I feel like the way I feel like it was too much for myself.
Yeah.
It's
And
like,
people handle different stresses and different
mhm.
things different in life as well. But I feel like as well, like starting at 15 it can be a good thing and a bad thing. And you see this on shows now with some certain young people that turn up to shows. It's like, you know what I mean? Like the wrestling business, like the certain expectations and behaviors of wrestlers, like because it's like I feel like a 15-year-old coming into the wrestling business would just get instant heat from so many people,
Oh,
and they would be like clueless to it.
there is a 15-year-old currently who had his debut match 2 weeks ago when we did like a street party match
Yeah,
show.
yeah.
Had his debut match. I know he's done a couple of other matches, like backstage, like backyard matches,
Mm,
but this was like his debut RCW match, and his name's Kaitoa. Kaitoa? I hope I said that right. I think he said he was going to watch it, but he's a 15-year-old kid and he does stupid things. So I've officially dubbed myself Wrestling Mother, and I have yelled at him before, and I've told him off. Like last Tuesday, I remember he was busy practicing stuff in the ring, and I'm like, your father is waiting out there to pick you up. Get out there. Like, I just tell him off because he wants to be immature and be a kid, and I'm like, no, stop it.
But there's nothing wrong with that as well. Because like, it's him being a 15-year-old, but the fact that you can be there and see this kid that's going through like training and stuff like that and offer, because I feel like even when their mum and dad aren't around, there needs to be some sort of like figure that they can sort of respect and sort of listen to, and you know what I mean, and take that. So good for you for stepping into that role, you know, at training for this kid, because like I feel like maybe he might like, and I don't know, I've never spoken to this kid, never met this kid, but he might like push the limit certain thing, and then you might have to check him, and that's the thing, or whether it's happened already, I don't know.
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah, I'm very motherly towards them. I'm like, don't do that, don't do this. I think Arkabar, one of the venues we work, the Arkabar has stairs, and I think I remember him like wanting to slide down the stair rail, and me like yelling at him, like, get off there, stop it.
You really are turning into a mum.
Me starting at 15 and then seeing him, and I'm like, no, don't be like me. Don't be stupid.
Maybe that could be like a new gimmick for you, right? Like it's just like coming out and like mothering the audience. Do not drink that soft drink. Here's some water. Or like just opening up a handbag and pulling out like a butter menthol or some shit.
Yes.
Oh, you need a tissue. I don't know. Could work. Mm-hmm. But like, do you find that going, you know, starting at 15 and where you're at now, like you said about 22 is when you really matured, right? Is that matured in life, or you mean matured in the business where you started to get how things work?
Started to understand how things work. I had an overinflated view of myself. Sorry, it was raining. I was trying my best to hear a bit better because the rain's so loud. Trying my best. So I was very easily jealous. My self-opinion of myself was that I'm amazing and I don't need to train much because I'm amazing. And if these people can get on shows and these people can get this, and I'm almost doing, I've been training as long as them, and I'm almost doing as much as them, which, let's be honest, I wasn't, but I just thought I was. I'm like, I'm really good. And it's not my fault that I'm not getting opportunities. It's your fault. Or being friends with the wrong people. Sorry?
The whole I'm being screwed over here.
Yes, absolutely. And unfortunately, it caused me to lose friendships over that. My best friend won WrestleMania, like won a major title at WrestleMania. I stayed at her house. She was my best friend for 6 months. And then we debuted together. And I got the storyline. And she would say that, like, Izzy, you got the storyline. Like, why are you jealous of me? And I'm like, because they keep giving you these matches and they keep saying how amazing you are, and I don't understand it. And that's one example, and that's the example that really breaks my heart, is that I decided that ruining that friendship was worth it because I'm like, it's unfair because I'm as good as you. But now I sit there going, no, she was always going to be amazing, and you've lost your friend. She's in America. You haven't spoken to her years. She doesn't want to bar up you, and why would she? She's now this amazing superstar, and that's just one example of how I screwed myself over. And like leaving RCW, I left RCW when I was 18, 17, because I'm like, oh, you guys aren't giving me enough opportunities. So I left. And no offense to anyone that I've worked in wrestling in that time period I was away from RCW.
Sure.
It made me the person I am, and I love so many people from that. But also it's sitting there going, what would have happened if I didn't leave RCW? But I was so focused on going, oh, it's RCW's fault. It's not me. And it's like, no, they were trying to make me see that I could improve, and I refused to listen. And the first time I tried to go back to RCW, they wouldn't let me in. And why would they? I was horrible.
Yeah.
And it's like, I feel like I should have started a lot later, because maybe I've been mature enough to see things differently.
Mm.
I have a
Where-
lot of regrets of my early times in wrestling, and I wish I could take them back.
But I feel like that's mistakes that you make when you're young.
Yeah.
And I feel like, like everything where you've come from, and we've still got a lot to unpack here in this conversation, but like from 15 to where you are now back at RCW is like you've had to redeem yourself. You look back at the times now, you mentioned, with Demi, right? The friendship that you had there, which you have regret that you don't have the friendship anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's not just because of who she is now, but more along the lines of the friendship that you had.
Oh, she was my best friend.
Mm.
Was an amazing person. I can't speak. I don't know. I haven't spoken to her in years. From what I've heard, when she came down, they're like, "Oh, still the same old Demi, how she's always been." But she was she was like one of the best friendships I've ever had.
Yeah.
She was awesome. But
Do you feel like the friendship there can be repaired at some point?
I don't see how. I tried to apologize to her 2 years before I was it 2 years? I think it was like 2 or 3 years before she went to America to work for a WWE. I tried to apologize, but I don't think there is a possibility she's over there. And I honestly think at this stage of my life, I'll probably never. I want to go to America and I want to wrestle and go over there and stuff, but I'm sitting there going, that ship is kind of sailing away from me, and it's not really something I'm looking too much anymore. Of like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm making sense. Like,
No. Yeah, like
yeah,
there's no point chasing something that you might not even get a response from.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, you know what I mean? But like what happened like 2 years, like the years before she went over to the States? Like what happened with the apology? Was she just shut it down straight away? Was she like, hey, let's
I
talk
was
about
really nasty. I was a very mean girl. I She didn't respond to it, but you've got to understand that she had every right not to respond to it.
Sure.
I For somebody that was really bullied in high school, I decided to be very nasty to her. I was talking behind her back. I said things behind her back. Chose to take. I chose to take my frustration in wrestling out on her. She has no reason to apologize. She's no reason to accept my apology. I was a horrible person, and yeah, she just didn't respond, and that is fair enough because I wouldn't have responded to me.
Yeah.
I just don't
I
think
mean,
there's any mending.
I mean, who knows? Like you know what I mean? Like you can't say like never any like a possibility for it. There could be somewhere down the line. I mean, like I feel like from her perspective on it, like how I don't know how she feels about it, but what she's able to go on and go and do. But I think as well, like to a certain extent, you've got to like allow people to grow and you got to
Yeah,
allow people to make mistakes because it's like fuck. Like in my 40 years on this earth, I have made a ton of mistakes and I regret majority of them. And if people didn't forgive me for my mistakes, like that would be heartbreaking. And I feel like there is redemption there that should be given to you. I feel like the behavior that you had at 15, 16, 17, and 18 years of age. And I've said this a million times before. When you're that age, no disrespect to people that are that young at the moment, but when you get older, you'll realize you don't know everything.
Yeah,
You don't, you know what I mean? Like, your shit does stink, just like the rest of us. You know what I mean? Like, but I feel like any young person listening to me say that's going to sit there and go, "Oh, this old fuck. Like, what does he know?" But like, and I used to think the same way when I used to hear it. But when you get to a certain age, you mature and you develop. You sort of see that, right?
yeah, yeah.
I think that there's always that opportunity. But um, like, what was the thing that made you sort of like wake up to yourself really at that stage? Because you said around 22 you started to sort of come back around. You tried to come back to RCW, but what was it that happened in that time that made you see the light?
So I came back to RCW when I was 21. I started I started focusing on myself more, wrestling wise, which I honestly think I've only fully gotten into like fully focusing on my wrestling when it comes to like the last 2 years. Like I've really seen improvement and me really trying to like get into gear and work on myself. But it was kind of like I've been through a lot. Like it's a lot of personal things happened.
Sure.
Not too much I want to get into, but like family wise, personal wise, relationship wise, a lot of shit happened and it really made me mature very quickly. And with that maturity and with that responsibility that I had to then deal with, and I really had to wake up to myself. I was kind of forced to mature very quickly to a lot of personal stuff that happened all at once.
Yeah.
And yeah, I kind of certain people in my life, I saw the way that they that I saw people very close to me obviously show that they have no way to be accountable for their actions and no way to see their faults.
Mm,
And seeing the way that they act and the way that they want to act like their shit don't stink
mm.
made me realize I didn't want to be like that and make me really open up my eyes to like reality. I don't know if I'm making sense, but yeah,
Oh,
just
you definitely do. You saw your behavior in someone else, and you
yes,
witnessed it, and that was the shit that snapped you out of it. And that
yeah,
happens to a lot of people.
yeah, yeah. I saw somebody that was very close to me, and he has no redemption to ever see the error of his ways, and it's everyone's fault. And me going there, going, I don't want to be like that person. Oh wait, I have been like that person. I don't want to be that person anymore.
That's
And
a very honest conversation that you have to have with yourself as well, because like it's very easy to shut that off, but for you to sit there and accept that at 21 years of age, you know what I mean? Like, that is, you know what I mean? Like, there's not many 21-year-olds that even have that mentality when they're faced with that to even recognize what it is. So I take my hat off to you. That's massive.
thank you.
But like, once you sort of went back to and started to train at RCW, like, how long did it take for them to sort of break those walls down and accept you back? Like, were you constantly trying to like talk to them? Like, what was the situation there?
I I mean, they pretty much because it was the second time I tried to get in. I didn't feel like there was much animosity towards me for like if there was any like awkwardness, it was probably like a month or two. They
Yeah.
were very welcoming again, especially because they'd seen me since I was 15 and then I was 21. But if anything, I don't know if I imagine things because sometimes I can get paranoid in my own head. Sometimes I worry that I I can't fully mend the bridge, and that's not anything they've ever given me. That's just in my head of going, I wish I could really make sure they know how much I regret that decision, how much I regret, like, once again, anyone that knew me in that time, like when I was away, I love
Sure.
you guys. You guys made me who I am. Like, I thank you for those lessons, but it's also like going, I wish I didn't leave. I wish that the people that made me start this journey, like your Bassos and your Savannahs, I wish I could show them how thankful I am for them and how sorry I am for hurting them. Like, there was a message I got from one of the Bassos when I went behind their back and did a wrestling show that they didn't tell me to do, because in the old Adelaide days, like in like years ago, it was kind of like you all worked your one promotion, you don't work any others, and that was just how Adelaide wrestling was. And if you did, you need to speak to the guys. And I went behind their back, and then I went, oh, it's because I hate being here so much, and I really hurt one of them, and I sit there and I don't even think they remember. But to me, that breaks my heart when I remember that time of going, I didn't have any regard for their feelings.
Yeah. And I just want to take a moment. Flame, Australian wrestling superstar in the building, says hugs. Takes a lot to admit when you've been in the wrong and own up to things, and also face the music. You've grown up a lot and have been lovely when I've met you.
Oh, I
Kisses.
love her.
Flame is
Flame.
Flame is one of my favorite people in the business. Like,
I haven't seen her in years. She's beautiful.
she amazing human being. Her and
She is gorgeous.
Tristan Slade, what's up? Big shout out. I know they're both probably watching tonight. You know, but I feel like, you know, just in the sentiments of what, you know, Flame was saying there, that, you know, it does take a big person to just really step up and sort of admit when they're wrong. And it's the hardest thing to do as well. But you know what I mean? The hardest thing to sit there is and to say is, I was wrong. You know what I mean? The fact that you can be able to do that, man, there is a lot of people that can't. A lot. And like, I'm sure they've done a lot worse things than what you have as well. You know what I mean? Not to sort of diminish what anything like that, but you know what I'm saying? Like, there's some people that just can't allow themselves to do that.
Also, hello, Joel.
Joel Southgate in the building. Yeah, like it's crazy, but like, you know, as far as like when you did break into the business, because like Basso's, Savannah Summers, they've been around for a long time.
Yeah.
You know, we've seen the wrestling business get cleaned up in the last couple of years. How was it for a 15-year-old you coming into the professional wrestling world? And now I can imagine if Savannah Summers is there, the Bassos are there, it's a pretty like a very professionally run setup that they would have had.
Yeah.
But did you feel like there was any times being like a minor around this world of professional wrestling that you felt in any way that safety was a concern, or that you felt that you shouldn't be in certain places, if that makes sense?
No, mainly because the men that I first started teaming with, Brad Smythe, made it very clear that he was like the way that I am with Kaitoa is the way he was with me. It was kind of like he'd make sure that I was not doing like try my best to keep me out of trouble, do his best to keep me out of trouble. And it was like things like the guys would start swearing at training and he'd be like, no, Izzy's here. No, stop it. He would very much just like, I don't know. I was the youngest person at that time in RCW at that time. And yes, our wrestling Xena would be cool, Joel. I only saw Izzy versus Xena. Sorry, I didn't get to see the rest. But yeah. What was I saying? I was the youngest at the time, but I didn't. It was kind of like I never felt unsafe because the Bassos are really caring people. Brad was very caring. Brad always made sure that I felt like he was there, especially when people like Demi came along and I'm trying to think of his wrestling name. Davey Green came along, and the Bassos are very caring people.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, Chris Basso is a saint, and Matt Basso is as well, even though he chopped me last week.
But I feel like that's a very good environment for you to come up in, like considering what the world of professional wrestling, you know what I mean, like the stories and things come out there. So it's positive to hear that you know what I mean, that you didn't have to go through too much shit that when you were there. How did you find, you know, once you sort of started making your debut, started being on shows, when you actually were given the chance to be on shows, did you feel like you were ready? Like at the time, did you feel like, yeah, I'm ready for this 100%?
Yes, I did.
Looking back at it now, with the knowledge that you have now, the wisdom that you have now, would you have thought that you were ready?
No, kinda. I think I think actually wrestling wise, I was decent enough to be on shows. Of course, the Bassos wouldn't have put me on shows unless they thought I was ready.
100%.
But yeah, mentally, I just feel like it would have been better if I was more mature. But that was just, yeah. But I think wrestling wise, I was decent enough. But in saying that, I still feel like I've got a long way to go, and I'm so much better than I was back then. But even then, most people can list off their favorite matches, and I've had good matches. Everyone I've wrestled, I love our matches, but I can't sit there and ever go, that was my breakout performance.
Yeah.
I
do you feel like that
think,
happens for you?
No, I think I've had matches where I go, my opponent's been amazing. I've had many matches where I've wrestled amazing people, but I've never been 100% proud of my performance. And I think the closest I ever been was a Tali match. And that's not a dig at anyone I've ever wrestled. Just I've never fully seen a match and gone, I did absolutely amazing. And we hope that happens. I hope I get that feeling, but at the moment I'm still feel like I need a lot of improvement.
But I feel like I talk to a lot of people in wrestling, right? I speak to a lot of wrestlers, and I feel like that is the consensus from everyone, that they feel like, I'm probably not, you know what I mean? Like, and I've had people like Hall of Famers say this to me, where I've said, what's been your favorite match where everything worked? And this Hall of Famer looked me dead in the eye and went, don't know, I haven't had it yet. And that was Johnny Rods, who's 80-something years of age. I was like, what's the favorite match of all time? He's like, I don't know, puppy. It hasn't happened yet. I'll let you know when it does. I'm like, oh, fuck, all right then. You know, so
amazing.
you know, what was it about that match that you had with Tali? Was it just that you felt like everything was just like going your way, all the gears were sort of churning at that point for you?
Oh, me and Tali have really good chemistry. We were told to go like 100%, like, so like we threw in a lot of stuff into that match, and I liked the match. I loved the match. I thought it was still decent storytelling. I thought that we gelled so well. I just think we really gelled, and it was like my first title I've ever won in that match. So I don't know if I'm kind of biased because of that, but yeah, just the chemistry, and I just really liked the way it was, and like, Tali beat the shit out of me, and I enjoy that.
I mean,
Don't
like,
question me. I like it when people hit me really hard.
hey, man, if you didn't like it, you're in the wrong business, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But like, do you feel like, you know, that kind of match, do you feel like, where do you see yourself as far as like, we talk about professional wrestlers in Australia, and like we have so many wrestlers here in Australia. being such a small population with what we are, where would you rank yourself in the Australian wrestling scene?
I would rank myself.
I want you to be honest. I don't want you to sit there and go, I'm going to put myself back a little bit. Honest question. Where do you see yourself on the scale?
I see myself in the middle. You've got your Robbie Eagles, your Jessica Troys, your Deltas. You can't see my hand. Your Deltas up here. And then I'm not going to say people at the bottom. That would be an awful thing to do. But I see myself kind of like in the middle. Kind of like, yeah.
What do you think you need to do to go from being the middle to the top?
Definitely. Well, one of the things I've been having a lot of issue with is gimmick wise. Just trying to come up with something. I did the whole like Doctor Who nerdy thing. No one was buying that. And it's kind of like that's my biggest struggle at the moment is I need a reason to make people want to watch me. I need a reason to be there. And at the moment, I don't want to do something that's just like bullshit. I don't want, because I was once years ago dropped like this whole Duchess idea where I'd come out with my dog and be like a posh princess. And people are going to watch that and it won't be me and people laugh at it. And I don't know, it's kind of hard of like trying to come up with something for myself that's real, that I don't have to just like pick out something. So I don't know, just trying to.
I feel like the best gimmicks, like, and I don't want to sound corny and cliche here, but like the best gimmicks are the real person turned up. Like, if you look at the Australian wrestling scene, for example, right? And I'm going to pick someone who I think is probably got one of the best gimmicks. And like after speaking with her, you kind of like see the, you know what I mean? Like that goofiness, I don't want to say she's goofy, but that sort of awkwardness, so to speak, right? And that's Cherry Stevens. Like I feel like what you see with her character wise is very much close to what you see of that real person from the interactions and conversations I've had with her. And I feel like that's even what she even said on a podcast with me, that she is awkward. So she plays to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Just, yeah. Trying to work out how to put it into the ring.
Yeah. How to make it make sense wrestling wise.
Yeah. And also I want to get jacked. Hey. I'm on the same shows as Delta. I need to like push it.
Yeah, need to go get swole.
Oh my god. Yep. She's like there every training. We do the workouts. There's her breezing through it. We're all dead.
You know what's it's so funny about her, like, is like she looks so like intimidating and scary. And I've had her on the podcast. I've worked shows with her, and it's like she is the direct opposite from that. Like she's one of the most, you know what I mean? Like she's very like lovely, she's very friendly, but when that makeup goes on, when that sort of like thing goes in, man, she is a scary motherfucker.
She's the biggest softie, and then yeah, scary. She can
like I know people talk about intergender wrestling and stuff like that. And trust me, she could beat the shit out of me and make it look believable very easily.
I've seen her like defeat people in push-up competitions. I've seen that woman, like, I've seen her like lift massive muscular dudes, and they've gone backstage and went, I wasn't even ready for her to pick me up. I've legit heard that. Like, I wasn't ready for her to pick me up, and she just lifted me.
Like where you're going.
Yeah. She is absolutely gorgeous, an absolute sweetheart. But by God, I do not pity a man that tries to piss her off.
Jesus. Hey, well, hey.
I mean, his name is Matt Hader, but.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, Matt Hader pisses everyone off. It's fine. It's his whole thing.
Yeah. From what I'm told, I had Brody Marshall on the other week. He was saying the same thing. So.
Oh yeah, Hader for some reason just loves to piss you off and thinks he'll be fine every time.
As a shoot or a work?
Matt Hader isn't. If you go and see Matt Hader and you think that's all put on, no, that's just like Cherry Stevens. He has turned that up. He is the biggest shit on the planet. He's a lovely shit, but he is a shit.
Yeah, he's the shit of us. I don't want to say the
He
shit.
is. He's a good wrestler, guys. He's a good wrestler. But oh my god, I want to hit him sometimes.
Yeah, like I can just imagine. And you know what? I want to bring this up because we were talking about this before the podcast, right? So I asked you before the show, have you seen any of my podcasts? I asked that to all my guests coming on just so I know how they know what the vibe of the podcast is going to be. And you said, yes, I watched the Tyson Gibbs one, which is the one that got a lot of feedback, I want to say. Let's put it like that. You said you wanted to address a couple of things that he said on there, and like I said, this is a platform where I let everyone speak, and as you would have seen, I've let you speak here, and I want to give you that opportunity to say what you want to say about this situation.
Yeah, because that's the only podcast I've seen of yours. Sorry, I'm very bad with podcasts. I'm very bad with anything.
That's why I won't hold it against you. Just
I don't view a lot of content. I don't really need to. But I did see his because I was doing my makeup, getting ready for work, and I heard about the podcast, so I watched it. And no heat to Tyson because I don't know, I don't want heat with anyone. But I just was like, the whole intergender thing was making me really, I was getting really heated because it's things like going, oh, most of these women are so much smaller than me. It doesn't make sense. And like I said to you, one of my favorite arguments is like, which I barely use, but I need to. But so does an Irish whip. That doesn't make sense. Why, like, what do you mean? Oh, it doesn't make sense. Yeah, it's not like, it's like, why am I arguing with someone over a, like, pretend sport? It's not real. Like, it hurts. Wrestling is like the hardest thing on the planet. Every time I go to training, I'm scared. I'm freaking myself out. I've got a very sore back. But on saying that, it's a fake sport. It is like, what do you mean that, oh, they're smaller than me, so it doesn't make sense? Yeah, well, just like the argument you had with like the Rey Mysterio, like Rey Mysterio, Big Show, stuff like that. Why is that any different? Just because it's a man versus a man, like, you can make anything work.
I mean, if we're going to say not believable, then let's be real. That would mean Rey Mysterio, Shannon Moore,
Hornswoggle,
Dean Malenko. Who else? Six Pac, X Pac, or whatever the name Pac you want to call him. Who else am I like? Let's look at Australian wrestling. Paris De Silva,
Eman the Kid.
Exactly right. Prime example. They can go out there and win matches. Like where I see it is, and I said this to you earlier. If something's not believable, doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman.
Yeah.
It's the two people in the ring that can't get their shit over.
Exactly.
That's what it is.
If it's not believable, it is on them for not being able to plan a match properly.
And look, I've seen some great I've seen some great intergender wrestling, and I've seen some fucking shit intergender wrestling. Just like I've seen that of the same with every other genre of wrestling.
Yes.
But like, what did you feel was the most like that you when you watched that podcast or you listened to the podcast? What did you feel was the most offensive thing that was said there? Though? Like, was there something that you took offense to?
You know what? The thing I took the most offense to, and it wasn't actually the intergender one, was the argument about, like, not the argument, but he said, like, bullying in, like, sometimes you need a bit of bullying in training. Like, he was something along those lines. Like, like, I don't know if I got the wording exactly right, but it was like something about like you need to be a bit tougher when you're training people. And I've seen that toxic way of training in the past, and I don't think it has a place in wrestling. I don't think that attitude, this isn't like,
Sure.
oh, we're training fighters, but you're training people. Yes, you need to train people to look like they're in a fight. We do things like shoot fighting to like show how things would actually work in a real fight.
Yeah.
But I don't think that in pro wrestling, where we're here to work together and when we're here to entertain people, that we should have people being nasty to us while we're trying to learn.
I don't think necessarily like being nasty to people, but I
Yeah.
feel like and I think I know that what you were talking about, and I think I addressed it like similar to I'm going to address it with you now is there's so many different types of people that different types of training works for. And I think what I said was you have to know your students. You have
Yeah.
to know what's going to work for them because like I know myself, like I've trained boxing, Muay Thai, MMA. Like I've trained with some of the best trainers here in Australia, and it's like the best trainers. I've trained with guys that were like screaming at me, calling me, "Come on, you fucking piece of shit, get the fuck up," and that got results out of me. I've had
Yeah.
another coach who is very like I don't want to say kid gloves, but was like very okay, mate. Look, this is what you need to do, and he got the result out of me. But I found I got the better result from the guy that was screaming and carrying on because it's like hustle, move, 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 like it needed to get done. Whereas it's okay, take your time. To me, I was like, okay, so if I don't do it, it's no big deal. But the other guy was like, you got to get it fucking done, son. And I'm like, shit. That works for me.
Actually,
I think that some people it'll work for and some it won't work for. So it depends. I think being a coach or a trainer in wrestling or any sport or anything in the world, even a teacher to a certain extent, is a very difficult job because you have all these different people with all these different personalities and you have to be able to instill knowledge into them and figure out what the best way is to get the knowledge into their brain.
I might actually contradict myself for a second because when you were talking, actually, I do think it is nice to kind of have that when you're doing cardio and stuff like that. But other than that, I don't think. Yeah, I just personally
I don't
don't
think
like it. Yeah,
I don't think berating people and
yeah,
going, you can't do it, like you piece of
yeah,
shit, that sort of stuff, that's not needed. And that's not I don't think was what he was insinuating. I
yeah,
think it was more of insinuating what we were just talking about, that hard nose, come on, push through, push through, push through. This isn't like
yeah.
we're not going to baby you here. And I think that that's where like I don't want to take words and stuff like that because I'm trying to
Oh yeah.
to the conversation, but I believe that's where that part was mainly around.
Also, I was listening to that while getting my makeup done for work, so I also could have misconstrued things as well. So
Yeah.
I hope I haven't, like, and if I
No.
have, I am so sorry. It's just, yeah, it was, it's hard because I was like listening to it and I did show my partner,
Mm,
but it was kind of like I showed my partner when I got home that night, but I only really showed him the intergender stuff.
yeah.
So I didn't really listen to that part back. I just showed him what was said about intergender.
Sure.
And just like I always have the argument with intergender. Like another argument I hear with intergender wrestling is like, which I love, I've heard like, I don't want my kids to watch wrestling and think it's okay to hit girls. Like my little boy to think it's okay to hit girls. And I'm like, but won't they watch the guy versus guy match and then go, oh, it's okay to hit another guy, another boy? Like,
Sure. I
wouldn't
mean,
it be the same argument?
look, I can see it from the different points of view. I've got 3 kids. I've got 2 boys and a girl. I wish my kids were into wrestling way more than what they are, but they're not. I not for lack of trying on my behalf, but I feel like, the shows that I'm on, I do bring my kids to shows.
Yeah.
I did bring my kids to shows. Would I be okay with my child watching an intergender wrestling match if I was there to explain how it worked? If that makes sense. That, like, I wouldn't be like, "Hey, I'm gonna go off now. Here, put this on and see." Like, there'd be different factors. It'd be depend on who's in the match. Is it a death match? Then absolutely not. Certain points of it, yeah, because it's like my 5-year-old daughter. Do I want her to see that? Where I think, okay, it's okay for me to get hit by a man? Probably not. I don't think. And it comes down to looking at it, the maturity of it. When my daughter is 13 and 14 years old and she can comprehend things a little bit better, yeah, go for it. But at 5 years old, can her mind comprehend that? And is that instilling something? And like I said, I'm not against intergender wrestling. I enjoy it. I've been around the scene for a little while now. I'm on a lot of shows that do have intergender matches on them. I've got no problem with it. But I can see from both sides of the coin and both sides of the fence and both sides of the argument, so to speak. But like, I agree, it's professional wrestling. Anyone can make it be believable.
I can actually see a point there. I can. I will always defend intergender wrestling, but I can see that point, and I can see how parents would especially feel that way.
And I'm not saying I'm not saying anything disrespectful about it at all. I'm just saying from that perspective.
Yeah.
When is it like the same sense where I wouldn't let my kids watch a fucking death match?
Oh, I wouldn't. Like, I'm not having kids for years, but honestly, I love death matches. My partner loves death matches. I wouldn't let my kid watch it. Like, not until they're like old enough. I feel like it would be a bit of a horror movie for them. And also I do agree with that point. I like I understand your points with like your kids watching it and monitoring it, and I because the thing I have an issue with is people that don't want it on because, think of the kids. I don't know. I've like only seen that once, but like, but think about if my kid watched it, and it's kind of like, well, it's up to you as the parent to decide what's right for your children. So
100%. And like I said, I've had my kids watch a lot of wrestling. You know what I mean? Being my kid, they're gonna have to watch it, like it or not. And like, there's certain things, like my son who's older will come and ask me questions. Like, he's been to shows and gone, hang on, like, aren't these two supposed to fight each other later tonight? Like, what's going on here? And it's like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to expose it to him just yet. Where it's like, this is like, they don't fight before the show. It's respect. You know what I mean? And you see his little brain going, okay, Dad. Okay. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's like telling him there's no Santa Claus. I can't do it just yet. You know what I mean? The world will fuck him up sooner enough. He doesn't need me helping the process along. But like, I feel from the kids aspect, it's one thing. I don't feel intergender wrestling promotes domestic violence at all. I mean, I feel like professional wrestling is the one form of entertainment that, like, people that don't have the right mental capacity and right mental facilities shouldn't be watching wrestling, just like they shouldn't be watching certain movies, because they take things from it where they think it's reality. They think that behavior is reality, and it's not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I remember being a teenager, you think, going Stone Cold Steve Austin, going up to my dad, going, fuck you, and going, suck it to me. You know what I mean? But in reality, you can't do that shit to people in the real world.
I went through, so we had this tiny, light as a feather, like, little coffee table thing. It was like, I don't know, like, tiny thing.
Yeah.
And I remember, I can't remember how old I was, maybe 9. and my brother was like 7 at the time or something, and I wanted to watch wrestling, and he wanted to watch SpongeBob. So I picked up the coffee table and hit him and broke it.
Oh,
I threw it at my brother, and
table
then
spot.
was upset because I couldn't watch wrestling for 2 months.
Wow.
I'm just like,
That is
I want
insane.
to watch SpongeBob.
But that's the craziness of like when you're a kid and you lose that sort of stuff. We do have a comment here from South. He says, if I see intergender match, I will enjoy it because it's just wrestling and it's also the female testing themselves against the male. Okay. But 80% of shows I go to has 1 or 2 intergender matches. I don't think it necessarily needs to be looked at as like a woman testing herself against the male. Because then it's like, yeah, I mean, then you're automatically putting the male at a higher
Yeah.
pedestal, right?
My personal way of looking at intergender, not in like a viewer's perspective or anyone else's perspective. Me entering an intergender match, I go, this is good learning because men get to wrestle like for years. It's just been like women wrestle the women and guys wrestle the guys. So the guys have had like more opponents and more people to work with and more opportunities to learn.
Yeah.
Where we were all stuck with the same people. So I find it as a better way of learning and progressing. Not like, I don't really see it as like testing myself against the male. I see it more as testing myself against the person. If I'm wrestling Chris Basso, then yeah, I'm testing myself.
Yeah.
But that's more, I see it as you're learning from, you're getting to progress with somebody that might have had more opportunities than you, working different people. But if I'm wrestling someone if I'm wrestling a guy that's only had like 3 matches, I don't really see it as me testing myself. It's just me improving.
I mean, like, I think he means a lot more storyline wise than
yeah,
testing yourself. But like, I feel like for the most part of it, like, you know, what it comes down to, I feel intergender wrestling will be much like, I think it'll be bigger and I think it'll be less. I don't even think it'll be called intergender wrestling in about 10,
yeah,
15 years time. I think it's just going to be wrestling. Because I feel like they'll break those barriers down. And I feel like even like let's look at like MMA, for example, right? Like females in the UFC have been around for less than 10 years, right? And I like, even like boxing, Muay Thai, combat sports and stuff like that. Yes, there's always been women fighters, but it's never really been at the peak that it is now. And I feel like when UFC brought in fighters or female fighters, it took their audience a while to get used to. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like seeing women getting punched in the face, getting knocked out and slept. It's like, yeah, they're athletes, they're badasses, but still there's certain level of the audience that doesn't feel comfortable with it.
yeah,
Whereas I feel like the wrestling thing, there's so many different things like that it can go down to, but I feel like in 10, 15 years, it's going to be more acceptable.
yes,
And
yeah.
I feel like, but do you feel like from an audience perspective, how do you feel like an audience takes an intergender match and like breaks it down?
I think that's our job too. I think it's up to us the way that we plan matches. I don't really know how to say how I feel. Oh God. It really does depend on the way you book a match in front of someone. But also, if you are somebody that feels extremely uncomfortable with the idea of just seeing a man and a woman on paper, it's going to be incredibly hard for them to like. They'll what like. It's really up to us to put together a match that makes sense and will. I don't know. I'm sorry. My
That's right.
brain is having a brain fart.
No, I think like to be able to captivate the audience, right?
Yes.
They need to be able to go in there and perform it. And it goes back to my argument where it's like it doesn't matter the gender. It's like it's up to the two workers in the ring. If you can't make a match believable and can't get over, that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean anything if you're a female or a male or non-binary
If
or whatever it is. It does not matter. It just means that you as a performer haven't been able to achieve that yet or haven't been able to work that out.
if I was wrestling someone like Baron, and I don't know if you know who he is, but he is a giant, tall, scary man, basically like, I don't know, Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Mm.
If I went out there and he hit me a million times and I no sold it and then picked him up for a scoop slam, that would be stupid.
Yeah.
But I can also understand how me just getting pummeled by this massive 7 foot tall man would be uncomfortable to someone that is uncomfortable with intergender wrestling.
Mm.
It is
But
my job and his job to make it be like I wouldn't be giving him my exploder suplexes. I'd be doing things like trying to like get him off his feet, clotheslines, crossbodies, flying moves, and I don't know. I'm having brain farts. I'm sorry.
no, sorry, but that comes down to it being exactly what we're talking about, being believable. Like I've seen some shows where there's a guy who's 6'3", 6'4", and he's getting bumped around the ring by a wrestler who's 5'4", 5'5". And I'm sorry, but that's not believable that you're going to punch this man and he's going to fall over. I'm not,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like straight away, like I'm
Yeah.
sitting there going, I don't give a fuck what the rest of the shit that you do in this match because you've already taken me out of that. Like I'm
At
already
least, yeah, you can't do it with one punch. You at least leave a couple. If you're going to do something like that, it needs to be like a whole heap. You need to do more to that person than you would.
An example, but the guy was bumping all over the ring and to the point where I'm just like,
Yeah.
am I watching? Like what? Why? Like what?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like sell the size, put it over the fact. You know what I mean? Like when the person does put you on the ground, whether it's male, female, whatever it is, whoever's working, but the bigger opponent work to get them on the ground.
Yes.
Make it believable. You know what I mean? Like if I run into someone who's 6'6" and try and tackle them, I'm going to bounce off them.
Yeah.
I mean? Like
Yeah.
I'm a little guy. I know the fact. I know that is a fact, right? But like, do you think that almost that style, and I kind of want to call it like the indie style, that very fast paced, like spotty sort of style. Do you feel like that has really taken over wrestling right now, where like that's the expectation of fans that they expect it to be like very fast paced and spotty all the time?
I actually am. I'm actually my favorite style of wrestling is the fast-paced, spotty stuff. I think that you can make it make sense. So
Oh,
I think that there's a way to, yeah, yeah. But I personally love the spotty stuff. I love the flippy stuff. I love the fast-paced stuff. And I think that that's the way wrestling's going. I think that boring technical stuff, even though I've got a friend that is a technical British wrestler, and I'm sorry. And I'm sorry to all my technical friends, it bores the hell out of me. Like,
if it bores the hell out of you and you're a worker, right?
Yeah.
What's it doing to the audience?
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's maybe some fans still enjoy it, but it's kind of sitting here going, in 2023, it's like we've got all these movies, we've got all these stuff. Like, unfortunately, wrestling is changing. Like the rest, it's like entertainment is changing. Wrestling's going to change. The old art form, unfortunately, I feel like is going to die. And
well, it's almost but you look back at say mid 90s, right? Dean Malenko. A lot of people would say one of the greatest of all time in-ring performers, right?
Yeah.
Can you tell me one thing entertaining that he did in his entire career?
Nope.
And I'm not trying to hate on that or his style of wrestling, but it's just to prove a point. It's like look at the generation that he came through. Eddie Guerrero, Chris Jericho, Rey Mysterio, you know what I mean? Like DDP, like you know what I mean? Like there was so much talent there. And then there was Dean Malenko who could out wrestle pretty much all of them. You know what I mean? Great, knew everything. But we can't remember a single fucking thing he did.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, and that's where I think like from a wrestling perspective now, like, you know, that's where it has to go. Those viral moments and stuff like that. It's like when companies and more on the independent promotions, they could go and share a 15-minute chain wrestling match. Great. And it'll get maybe 100 people, 200 people like it or whatever, maybe. But then if they go and post a ridiculous fucking spot that happened, how much more eyes does that then bring back onto the product? So from a business perspective, more outlandish shit is good because that's going to bring in the non-wrestling fans over. Whether it's
Yes.
good, bad, indifferent, it's going to get views, right? It's like, did you see on there was a thing recently that I think it was XPW over in the States did a spot where I don't know the other worker, but I know there was an English worker called Big F and Joe, and they were involved in a death match. And basically, Big F and Joe pulled the guy's pants down, took a syringe or a needle, and straight through. Yeah.
I didn't know about this.
So again, that comes down to being like not something that I really want to see, and by the look of your reaction, not something that you really want to see, but it's going to bring attention to that product.
I'm sure someone wants to see it. I'm sure someone enjoys that.
But my overall point here is like sometimes you have to do crazy outlandish shit in order for people to want to be able to, you know what I mean? Click on that, and then having a good product to back up that ridiculous, insane clip is that's what's going to get you new fans. That's what's going to get new viewers and stuff like that. Because even the haters are going to sit there and go, I want to go and check out this clip because I want to go and tell everyone how bad it is. Oh shit, there's another clip here of these two guys having an amazing match. Oh, let's check out this. You know what I mean? Like it's all these things that from a business perspective, that's the way I see it.
Wait, I love when you were like saying someone's watching that video just to like tell everybody how bad it was. Why did I instantly picture someone holding a tennis racket? I don't like this.
Yeah, hey man, that's exact. Oh, James C. Cornette, baby. Yeah, you know what's funny? I'm actually blocked by Jim Cornette.
That is amazing.
I actually want to go get that framed, and I'm going to put it up in my office just so every day that I can look at it, and I'm just going to be like, yeah, I'll tell you off air what my interaction with James Cornette got me blocked, and you'll find it hilarious to say the least.
I'm sorry, guys, but Jim Cornette is one of those people. I don't care if you like me or not. I don't know. He'll never see my stuff. I'm pretty sure of that. But oh my god.
You're not a fan of James Cornette?
I'm not really. Nah, not the big fan.
No, I mean, like,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I think less of him now than I probably ever did. You know what I mean? But if anything, now I just think it's hilarious. But you know, as far as you know, for yourself though, like, you know, we've talked about, you know, you break into the business, the struggle, the maturity, the jealousy. How does it look now for you? Like, where's your mindset at overall when it comes to professional wrestling?
Much better. I am training 3 nights a week, 2 or 3 nights a week. I've got an amazing partner that is with me in my wrestling journey. He is one of the commentators, and he is the guy that does the editing for the shows. I've got an amazing support system. I've got friends in wrestling. I've never felt like I feel so much better than I ever have. The only thing is I'm in a bit of a rut right now of going, what do I do next? That's been letting me down the last few days of going, oh, I really need to come up with something new for myself. But I actually feel so much better. I think these are my best years in wrestling going to come. I hope that I can get into state, and I hope I can get matches, and I hope I can show everyone that. But wrestling's good. I've got a really good support system, and especially with my fiance being in wrestling, and he understands it. Like, my ex before him wasn't a wrestler, and he wasn't in wrestling and didn't really understand it, and that could be and that was hard. But with Angus, it makes everything better because I can talk to him about wrestling and he understands, and getting to have that support at the shows and knowing that he's getting to cheer me on while I'm wrestling. I mean, more he has to be professional and commentate my matches, but knowing he's there, and sometimes I can hear his excited voice on the headset.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like to be like in the business and then to have a, like, I don't know. I was married to my wife years before I started the podcast and years before I even got into wrestling. So I kind of feel like my wife is just is along for this crazy journey. But I feel like when you're tied up into wrestling as deep as you are as a performer is, because like an athlete's life can be a very selfish one, I feel.
Yeah.
Where it's like everything that you put forward for this needs to come first.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, how has that been? Like, has that affected relationships over the years of like you being a performer? Like, you know, now being in a healthy relationship, but like relationships in the past, had they suffered because of your wrestling? Do you feel, or did you find?
Definitely the one that wasn't with anyone involved in wrestling. Sorry, haven't had too many relationships in my life, but only one of them was really out of wrestling, and that really struggled. That was hard. Yeah, it was really difficult, but yeah, now I have Angus and he understands it. And every show, it's like he also gets the struggle because every show I can barely see him because he edits the shows. So I'm like, okay, we just did a show. I'm not going to see Angus for a week. Hey, honey, do you want a coffee while you edit that show? Oh, okay, this person needs a promo and this person needs a promo. Okay, I'll see you in a day's time when you're done with their we
See,
get
that's the beauty of it though, because you both understand, you know what I mean, the struggle in the life of what it takes in this business,
Yeah.
right? So I feel like this conversation, we've been talking for like an hour and going up to 15 minutes and some change. I feel like this has been a pretty cool conversation. And like, I'd like to get you back for a part 2 if you'd be down for it, because I feel
I
like
would love that.
that's awesome.
Hopefully, I haven't been too much of a dickhead, and I'm sorry if I said anything stupid.
Hey man, I say stupid shit all the time. So if you did, I probably didn't even notice. But talking about stupid shit, it is time for 60 seconds with Piers. How this is going to work if you're a first time tuning into the show. 60 seconds with Piers. How it works is I'm going to fire a bunch of questions at Ms. Izzy Shaw. She's got 60 seconds to answer as many as she can. Izzy, are you ready and for this?
Yes.
Okay. Ready to start? 1, 2, we'll go now. Which board game do you always win at?
Always win at. I win at Monopoly.
You have the ability to change the ending of any movie. Which movie was it, and what is the new ending?
Okay, I would change the ending of. Oh my god, my brain. I would change. I am so bad at this. Avengers Endgame, so that Tony Stark gets to see his daughter. The deleted scene.
If you could turn into someone else for a day and live their life, who would you be?
Oh my god. Either my turtle, because I need to know why he does the things he does, or Hiromu Takahashi, because I need to know what goes on in his brain.
What was the name of your first car?
My first car, it was Benny, like Benedict Cumberbatch, because I love Benedict.
What did you get into trouble for most as a kid?
Most as a kid, being too loud and making everything about me.
If you came with a warning label, what would it say?
She's very loud and she won't shut up.
What is something that you enjoy that you? What is something that you enjoy that you're embarrassed to admit that you like? Kind of like a guilty pleasure.
Guilty pleasure. I watch White Chicks a lot. For some reason, that's always my go-to when I'm bored.
Okay. And last question. In 5 minutes' time, you're being shipped out of space. What 2 personal belongings do you take with you, excluding human beings?
My turtle and my my turtles, both of them.
There you go. Izzy Shaw's going out of space in 5 minutes. She's taking both turtles, Leonardo.
Yes. I don't need anything else, just my babies. Just my boys.
Michelangelo and Leonardo. If that's their names, I don't know. I just named
Mr.
them.
Jackson and Mr. Fred.
I love that. We are going to get you back on for a part 2 because I feel like this conversation's been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed it. I hope you have as well.
Thank
We've
you.
covered a lot around here, and I feel like there's so much more that we can get to cover as well. But Izzy, where can everyone find you on social media? Where can they get some merch? Where can they follow your journey in this crazy world of professional wrestling?
Well, Facebook, Izzy Shaw Professional Wrestler. Twitter, Izzy Shaw PW for Professional Wrestler. I've got a TikTok that I don't use, but I need to start using it. So TikTok, I believe I'm under the name The Lady Thrower there. And also Insta, which you can find there. And also merch, I need to get on top of that. I have photos and I had a shirt design that I should probably get printed.
There you go. We're going to get that shit done. We're going to get some Lady Thrower merch. But everyone, thank you so much for tuning in live. Thank you for checking it out post live. Thank you for listening it on all podcast platforms. But wherever you're finding us, as long as you're finding us, that's the main important thing. But please make sure to like, share, subscribe, and all that good shit because it makes wonders and helps us reach more amazing people with more amazing conversations like this one. Huge shout out to our sponsor, healthvape.com. Go and check them out. Use that promo code MWAPOD to get a 10% discount. Izzy, I appreciate you coming on, but I end every interview with one question.
Yep.
That question is this. What is one question that I didn't ask on this podcast that you wish that I did ask? And how would you have answered it?
I don't know. If I could be stuck on a deserted island with any 2 wrestlers, probably, I don't know. First thing that came to my mind. Matt Hayter, so I could throw him to the sharks and get some food. I don't know. I feel like you'd be a good person to like throw somewhere. Like, oh, you need some bait? Okay, Hayter for bait, or I don't know. A lion's trying to eat me. Here you go, eat Hayter. Run away. And also Delta, because she would be I feel like she's a very smart woman and she'd be very helpful to help me survive.
Oh, hell yeah. I agree with that. But Izzy, appreciate you being on. We got to do this again soon. Thank you very much. Take care, guys. All the best. We'll see you again on Thursday night for episode 300, dropping this Thursday. Peace.